Good morning. I want to thank all of you for being here. I also want to welcome you to this third Global IP Summit organized by Sam Ghani and his team. I'm truly honored to be speaking to you here today. I started my professional career in law and IP almost 14 years ago, and from the very beginning I gravitated towards IP. Back then, most of my colleagues wanted to work in more traditional fields of law, like criminal law, constitutional law, civil law, but I like IP because it revolved around creativity and innovation in a way that the others did not. That's what I thought back then, and that's what I still think now. Working on IP has allowed me to travel the world and meet people from basically every country. IP has allowed me to explore other fields of study, including international trade, arbitration and mediation, policy, diplomacy, negotiation, business. So I'm extremely grateful to it. Sorry for that brief background, but I thought it was necessary to share to you so that you understand where I'm coming from. I looked at the list of speakers today, and everyone is pretty successful and have accomplished a lot. So I'm not here to lecture you. You probably already know a lot. But I do want to share two things that I think it's important. So I will focus on these two. And afterwards we'll get into the nitty-gritties of IP with the program prepared for us. International organizations and multilateralism are in the news more frequently today than they were a few years ago. Unfortunately, it's not because of the right reasons. In this day and age, concluding multilateral treaties is nothing short of a miracle. Every year this happens less and less. But why is this important? Are multilateral agreements necessary? What does it have to do with IP? Well, I think it's important. Multilateral agreements are necessary and they do have to do a lot with IP. It is important because we live in a globalized world where everything and everyone is interconnected. For example, I was born in Mexico, I studied in Spain, in the US, and in the UK. My wife is from Kenya, and I live in Switzerland. And I'm speaking to you here in Brussels. I am sure this is the case for many of you here. And even though this is not the rule, I think that the tendency is heading towards this direction. But even more than this, there is a growing list of challenges and problems that we face as a human race, and any potential solution stretches beyond any single company or state. Potential solutions can only come from multilateral agreements and cooperation. Of course, there are problems with international organizations. They are slow, bureaucratic, and the process could be more transparent. These are problems that we are currently addressing. It is still undeniable that multilateral agreements offer an unprecedented pooling of resources and the basis for a legal framework. What does this have to do with IP? When international agreements on IP started, they were self-contained. This was the case for many years. This changed with the creation of the World Trade Organization with the TRIPS agreement. One of the main motivations for this was enforcement, specifically the dispute settlement mechanism, oftentimes referred as the crown jewel of the WTO. The links between IP and trade back then were new, but now they're inseparable. This is why IP is important to the multilateral world order, and why IP professionals should care about multilateral agreements. The other thing I wanted to talk about is technology. IP and technology go pretty much hand in hand. Technology is changing the world faster and more radically than ever before. Some of these changes, we don't notice them or take them for granted. I remember talking to a taxi driver in my city in Guadalajara when I first heard about Uber. I was trying to explain to him how Uber worked, and I wanted to hear his opinion. He said that he did not think it would work because it has been tried before and it didn't. Fast forward a couple of years later, and I think his opinion would be different. The reason why I say this is because this is happening across every industry. When I talk to my colleague lawyers about legal tech, I get the same reply as the taxi driver. They think it's interesting, but they don't think it will catch on. I do not know if the changes in the legal industry will be as radical as the e-hailing business, but there will be changes, and we must be ready. IP lawyers are in a better position than other lawyers because we deal on a daily basis with technology, creativity, and innovation. This is why we should be leading the way. We also have an advantage because we have seen this happen in other industries, so it will not take us by surprise. These are pretty much the two messages I wanted to leave you with. We certainly live in interesting times. In the last 5 or 10 years, we have witnessed things that otherwise would have seemed impossible. We should not lose our capacity to be amazed, but we should try to be prepared. In the words of a Nobel Prize winner, the times, they are changing. Thank you.
And now we